Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Mills. I'm the Executive Director of Global Innovation Institute, and I want to welcome you today to our late May, early June webinar for this month. As most of you know, Global Innovation Institute is the world's leading professional certification, business accreditation, and membership organization in the world focused on the field of innovation. We work with organizations all over the world and help individuals develop capabilities and knowledge and skills in the area of corporate innovation and different roles associated with that, and help organizations develop that overall capability. As many of you know, as a lot of you have joined us before, we host a monthly webinar series to augment a lot of the knowledge and insights that are learned through our professional certification program. And so that's what brings us here today. So I want to welcome all of you with us today. So today we have actually two guests with us that I'd like to introduce and share a little bit about them and what they'll be sharing with us. Our two guests are Mr. Anil Rathi and Mr. Ian Murphy, both affiliated with Skill. So first of all, Anil Rathi is the founder and CEO of Skilled and Innovation Challenge. Anil learned at an early age about the power of people. Being the son of an international businessman, he watched his father travel the world and paid particular attention to what he brought back home with him. According to Anil, he'd meet all these people from everywhere, and when they would come into town, he'd invite them over for a dinner party with authentic Indian food. This was in the middle of Iowa. So I watched people from everywhere get together and share their experiences, their stories, and their cultures. It shaped my life. Well, according to Anil, that's not entirely true. It actually continues to shape his life. Anil also says, for almost 20 years now, I've made it my mission to carve out a crossroads where people from all walks of life can come together and share their ideas and passions. So consequently, after graduating from the Thunderbird School of Global Management, Anil created the Innovation Challenge, university-based competitions uniting the world's brightest students with global brands, Hilton Hotels, American Express, AT&T, Shell, and others, to foster new business models. Now, as the founder and CEO of Skilled, he's taken innovation to the next level, crafting challenge programs that tap into unheard voices and fresh perspectives. To date, and over the last decade, Skilled has run over 600 innovation challenges, generating $300 million in prizes, including for organizations like Cisco, LG, Samsung, Disney, Merck, Zurich Insurance Company, MasterCard Center for Inclusion, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Department of Energy, the National Science Foundation, and Health and Human Services, involving causes that have ranged from sustainability to childhood obesity to general innovation and growth. With all of those challenges, prizes, and partnerships under his belt, one would think that Anil would have perfected a formula for success by now. But Anil counters, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that there is no formula. Ideas are fleeting, challenges come and go, but people, in all their complexity and diversity, are the beating heart behind it all and the true driver behind any successful organization. Anil is based in Los Angeles, where he has lived for over 20 years now. He is also the father of twins and an angel investor, having invested in emerging technology since he was just 16 years old. Ian Murphy has established a very distinguished career over the years in public relations, content creation, and strategic communications, working for tech companies and innovation ecosystems. His career took off at the X Prize Foundation, where he launched $50 million worth of prizes, including the $10 million Ansari X Prize for private spaceflight. He played a key role in public relations for the first female space tourism flight and the unveiling of SpaceX's Falcon 1. Ian subsequently joined the University of Southern California Stevens Center for Innovation, where he created programs and campaigns to boost innovation among students, faculty, and alumni. While there, he led the world's very first TEDx event, TEDx USC, and later co-founded TEDx Venice Beach. These events have accumulated over 100 million views on TED.com. In 2013, Ian moved to Boston Consulting Group's Digital Ventures, where he led public relations and events for the North American headquarters. 2 years later, in 2015, Ian helped to develop innovationchallenge.com as the public-facing and challenge marketing arm of skilled.com, the leading software for organizers to manage their innovation challenges. In this capacity, Ian built a website that promotes innovation challenges and their winners, and recruited and assembled the largest global database of technology scouts in the world, 10,000 more and growing, to help find high-quality potential entrants for these challenges. Throughout his career, Ian has consistently demonstrated his ability to drive innovation and foster growth in various industries. With a keen eye for emerging technologies and a deep understanding of strategic communications, Ian has been instrumental in shaping the narrative for groundbreaking projects and companies worldwide. As a result of his extensive experience, Ian has developed a unique ability to adapt to diverse industries and sectors, ensuring his clients have tailored and effective communication strategies. So today, Anil and Ian are going to be talking to us about tapping into massive networks of technology scouts through our own innovation challenges. This is an incredibly important subject for so many of us in corporate innovation, as we all need extensive external insights and perspectives to be able to navigate the massive challenges occurring all around us. So please join me now, if you will, in welcoming Mr. Anil Rathi and Mr. Ian Murphy. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
So thank you, everyone, for your time and attention today. I hope you find this useful, and we look forward to your questions later. So this is a picture when I was maybe 8 years old. When I was just a kid, I had this insatiable curiosity. I found myself drawn to problems that needed solving, working harder than most to figure out how to improve things and make life better. One of these problems was my own. See, I was born with one ear. Two rare related conditions, one called oral atresia, which means I was born without an ear canal, and I could not hear until I had 18 surgeries. And the second called microtia, which means I was born without an actual or real ear. I have a man-made one right now. But as a kid, like every other challenge I faced, I sought solutions, ultimately leading me down a path where connecting the dots and problem solving became a way of life. I kept a book of inventions, like a silent alarm clock to wake me up in the morning, a prototype for a note-taking device that would help me capture what I missed in class. So at the age of 13 years old, I had an idea. I called the 1-800 customer service lines of my favorite consumer electronics companies, and I pitched my way to the product managers and R&D departments and wrote letters into these companies. To my disappointment, I received letters back. Sorry, we don't accept third-party ideas. Or one guy told me, go get a patent first and then come talk to us. I wondered, why did all these companies didn't want to simply listen to another avenue of innovation? Why miss out on the next growth opportunity? So 20 years ago, I wanted to level the playing field. I launched my first innovation challenge. It was an experiment with executives from global brands like Hilton Hotels, AT&T, and American Express, and GE. We crowdsourced ideas from the top 300 MBA programs worldwide to create new business models and services for these brands. Many executives believed that this was necessary to get their companies out of their comfort zone. For example, one early customer from GE, Steve, he understood this urgency because his context at the time, companies like Netflix, Facebook, and Google were scaling at a rapid pace, establishing their competitive moats and challenging the status quo. I always found this quote very interesting, and it's exactly what we can find ourselves here today. I think today we can find ourselves here because not only because of the rapid acceleration of AI, but also the convergence and cross-pollination of dozens of emerging technologies. What I discovered from doing this experiment is that innovation challenges are magnets for identifying high-quality innovators and capturing insights for a tech-enabled future. Here's a picture of me and the winners about 10 years ago, ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Many of the participants in all the different challenges went on to become innovative leaders like yourselves, entrepreneurs, some acquired, and even some got to ring the bells at the stock exchange when their companies went public. Since then, our team has run over 600 innovation challenges, and we've identified thousands of high-quality innovators for global brands and organizations like Cisco, like Cisco and LG, the Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, and the list goes on. So fast forward to now, here I am, we're part of Skilled. We're actively engaging in this ever-evolving landscape of technology and innovation. Every day, we have a bird's eye view into new emerging tech solutions from entrepreneurs building AI, ag tech, digital health, climate tech, mobility, financial tech solutions all over the globe. It's a world as innovation professionals you know all too well, because you shoulder this tremendous responsibility of driving innovation. With a dedication to continual learning, I know you're more than up for a task. But let's be honest, even the most seasoned professionals can find the sheer volume of data on emerging technologies overwhelming. This vastness can slow us down, making it difficult to identify the trends that matter most. And this is only one of the 3 systemic challenges confronting organizations and companies that leads to missed opportunities. The other 2 reasons are limited reach and scale. So we've talked to a lot of organizations, and few of them have the time and resources and expertise to engage a larger, more diverse crowd. They have closed networks where they rely on these traditional resources, databases or internal business development consultants, or just relationships with a few universities where they may have offices. And this is where tech scouting networks step in. So what exactly is a tech scouting network? Well, picture them as bridges that connect us innovation professionals to a diverse ecosystem of researchers, investors, government organizations, and others. And why are they helpful? Well, after running 600 innovation challenges, and we've tried a whole spectrum of strategies to consistently find high quality companies. And our data revealed a common thread of success. It's the cultivation of vibrant tech scouting networks that truly have their finger on the pulse of technological innovation. And these networks help connect the dots to what you're looking for. And they allow us access to relationships, technology, and emerging trends, arming us with the insights to stay ahead of the game. So how do you build them? Well, I've created a framework called the DOT framework. And building these networks isn't about casting the widest net. It's not post and pray. It's about casting the right net. And with a time-boxed event like an innovation challenge, you can rapidly amass a lot of the right networks of the people that will be your eyes and ears. So first, you want to define the network. Each network must be comprised of individuals who share our passion for fostering innovation. These individuals can serve as scouts and connect the dots for what you're looking for. These can be universities and accelerators, the media, and other types of influencers. At Skilled, we've maintained a foundational network of over 10,000 scouts worldwide, and our customers use this network so they're not starting from scratch. Second, you can offer value. So you're offering value to the participants. This could be in the form of monetary, experiential, or upskilling. There's also the value to the scouts. Scouts become our allies to get access to the money or non-dilutive financing and notoriety to help further these companies' innovations. You can also save them time by making it easier on their day jobs with very easy to share information. Third, tending to the community. You can create spaces for learning, relationship building, and storytelling. In these spaces, we can provide resources, can solicit feedback, and simulate the engagement. So let's apply this DOT framework to a few examples. Here we have Cisco's Global Problem Solver Challenge. Cisco used Skilled's renewable tech scouting network strategies to develop a sustainable pipeline of problem solvers since 2017. So their network grew from 0 to a whopping 14,000 in just over 5 years. Cisco presents 15 to 20 prizes each year. And each prize you can think of as essentially a separate network. Whether it's geographic, topic, or sector specific, each one requires extensive research and personalized messaging to appeal to or connect with the right influencers and scouts. This is testament to the power of tech scouting networks, keeping innovation leaders like yourselves at organizations aware of these emerging trends and connected to fresh perspectives. So how do they offer value? Well, every year they award over $1 million in prizes, over $4 million in total to 93 winners. There's validation. Hundreds of employees across the company watch these videos and review it, which can lead to validation of these entrepreneurs. They tend to the community by offering pitch coaching to help these companies communicate their value proposition in 90 seconds. And during these pitch coaching sessions, these interviews is an opportunity for you to connect and get insight into the unmet need of what they saw that drove them to create these solutions. It also offers a way to make participants better. Participants often report that it's a transformative experience that they can take with them, even if they don't win. And Cisco does a great job after the challenge of promoting the company on the blogs, social media, and pre-pandemic, they flew in winners to Cisco live conferences and put them on stage in front of thousands of their customers for an opportunity to get exposure and win more money. They also had public voting where more than 60,000 people voted on the cream of the crop ideas and companies to give away a portion of the money and get feedback and awareness. But what if you don't have for over $4 million or 5 years? Let me show you an example of Skilled's rapidly scalable network strategies. Everyone knows LG. You either have one or you want one because they build some of the best products on earth. LG works very hard to find the next best ideas that can fit their business model. And if you see the categories here, they're through this program, they're investing in a broad set of innovation categories from digital health, electric mobility, smart lifestyle. They also have value to offer because they have a very strong network of investors tap for referrals. So using Skilled's rapidly scalable networks, LG was able to identify 1,000 startups in just 45 days. And those technologies have raised over $1.4 billion. So you can do this on your own, or we can do this together. While Cisco and LG are shining examples of how these strategies work at any scale, not every organization has the resources to do a 45-day sprint or a 5-year pipeline. So we believe that every organization can benefit from these strategies and should be able to tap into these networks. So we created a unique membership program where members can identify and select their areas of focus and pool resources together with other like-minded members, making them capable of producing extraordinary results. What does this membership look like? Well, first of all, it's a turnkey program, no operational support needed from members, expert vetting from our global mentor network. Your company can get a lot of brand exposure to thousands of organizations. There's a lot of rich data and storytelling. Imagine watching a 90-second pitch of the top 25 startups in an hour, and you get access to all this rich data from videos, team interviews, collected data, experts' fresh perspectives, and the scores. And then there's a built-in prize pool where each membership contributes to the pool, and we take care of the prize distribution. Membership is an investment that accelerates access to innovation. It also injects entrepreneurship into your culture and provides exceptional brand recognition. And if you're interested in learning more, you can scan here to learn more. But we're really interested in having a conversation with you. And if you have any questions, we'd love to take them. Can get even very tactical, and Ian can jump in and ask them.
So everyone, feel free to, if you have questions for Anil and Ian, feel free to type those into the chat window, or feel free to ask them live if you want to join us and ask them live. I guess to sort of kick off this discussion, I have a few questions too that either one of you can answer for me. My first question is, tell me a little bit more about who these technology scouts are, the people who participate in the challenges. Are they, is there one characteristic profile of these individuals, or do they vary a lot? What can you tell me about them?
Sure. Ian, you want to jump in?
Sure. I think I heard two questions, which is what do the scouts look like? How are they made up? And then did you also ask what are the applicants, like what typical companies
Well, let's start with the
and
scouts. Let's just focus on the scouts first, and we'll come
yeah,
back.
the best way I can describe a scout is somebody with professional or fiduciary responsibility to support, foster, and develop new technologies, problem solvers, entrepreneurs, and startups. So this could be, in the most 30,000 foot sense, it's you think of it as people who fund startups or people that run accelerators and incubators. That's the low hanging fruit. I think when we go a little bit deeper and we think about, well, who's the mentor class of people who spend every day thinking, how can I develop these people or this person or this early stage class of technologist? And you find those typically at universities. And I think when people do outreach, they get very myopic and they think about US universities. And one of the things that separates us probably from others that do this is we spent a lot of time in the beginning approaching this from a world as flat standpoint and understanding. So for instance, in Cisco, almost 75%, 80% of the ideas roughly, and I'll have to go back to the data from last year, come from outside the US. It's one of actually the lower performing sectors within the competition. And when we see people do global, we see tremendous successes. Where we get the most activity, and this is unusual, you would think it's the department head or the communications person, but really it comes from trial and error. A great example, there's an engineering school in California where the communications department, the marketing department, the department heads were completely unresponsive. And it's a major engineering school. And it wasn't until we found it was a tenured, early tenured professor who had a newsletter. And she was the type of professor who was very interested in making sure that everybody across the engineering department understood what not only the students were up to, but the faculty were up to in terms of doing really, really cool things. And her newsletter was widely read. So it just took a little time to kind of drill down into who is that champion of innovation within every organization. So we start at the organizational level. We guess pretty well, and we've been doing this since 2015, so we've been guessing for a long time, and we've gotten it right on a lot of different organizations. But when we are charting new networks, we will do a little bit of trial and error until we find that one champion. I would say half the time that this is a really good indication too. When you're asking people for help, find people who help for a living. So the head of your department, the head of your company, they don't help for a living, most likely. That's not really their job, right? They're revenue responsible. They have to hire. They've got a strategy to think about, right? But who in your company actually posts to social media or builds newsletters or helps people run an event or coordinates the community or pulls together contact lists, manages your MailChimp, whatever it is? Those people, they have a specific set of skills where they spend all day long helping other people figure out how to communicate and how to get things done, right? And I don't want to say it's always marketing and communications people, because myself, I have no background in marketing and communications. My background, educational background, is in econometrics, which, if people are unfamiliar with that, it's how we manipulate inputs to predict outcomes. It's kind of like a mathematical or logical sausage maker for anything, any project or product. So it doesn't always have to be that specific industry vertical. Use some trial and error, look for the people that are most helpful, and don't stop if the people at the top or the people you think are supposed to be helping you are not responding or not helping. I had a boss that always said, if you get a no, that just means start again at the next level up, and just keep trying.
So the scouts are working professionals in business, and they're university students. Does there tend demographically, does it tend to be a particular age range that most of the scouts fit into, or?
Yeah, it's never, the scouts are never students.
No?
I don't think I would ever see anybody at the student level, the grad student level, act as a scout. They would be primarily the entrants. When you see people who are between the ages of 19 in the digital tech world, 19, 20 in gaming, digital tech, metaverse, Web3, all the way up to, I would say 50, 55, sometimes around there in the
Okay.
biotech and health tech world. That would be the entrance.
Yeah, because some of them have new insights, they're younger, and other ones have valuable experience that are older that play into all of this.
Yeah, the scouts, on the other hand, are usually mid-career professionals. You would see anywhere between, 25 to 28 if they're on the marketing and communications roles, as I can tell you from being in that role. Like, it's really more of a personality, culture-driven role than a skills-based role. Whereas if you see at the academic level, you have to achieve some level of, you're going for tenure, or you have tenure, or and if you're going for tenure, you're probably entertaining this type of activity because it's very helpful to show value to the university. If you already have tenure, well, the pressure's off, so you can actually do some other things and kind of freed up a little bit. And you can be that kind of super mentor to people and say, well, no, I'm going to spend my time on this because I have tenure and I care about this and I'm doing it. But I would say scouts are very similar to the Duke University said the average age of a successful entrepreneur is 42 years old. I'll go ahead and say that's probably the average age of a successful professional connector in the innovation world. You have to have enough experience to know what is good innovation and what is fraud. And you have to have a network and a suite of contacts, because if you're doing this, we have a relationship. I'm bringing $1 million to the table and I have to give it away in July, right? And you have 35 startups that you've been crafting and working with for the past year. And you're trying to help them find money and find opportunity and find notoriety. So we have a wouldn't say a quid pro quo, but we've got a really symbiotic relationship there where there's some synergy, and I'm helping you, you're helping me. And there has to be a level of professionalism and responsibility to that versus I'm just helping out. Because otherwise, the funny thing about sustainable networks is you have to sustain them, and there has to be some incentive built into that value structure.
Yes. I see a hand raised from engineer Asia Al-Qurashi. So Asia, if you want to, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. We'll listen to your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony. Well, actually, you asked my question. First of all, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. My question was just to inquire about who is qualified to join and how they can contribute, collaborate. Like, how can we grow together? What are the required qualifications and areas of specialization? And overall, how can we provide value? How can we add this meaningful contribution together? And I think I got my answer. I went through the link. I just joined. Hopefully we can work together.
Yeah. So that actually it raises a great question. Who does qualify for joining as? Let's start with the scouts. Who qualifies for that? And then let's transition and talk about the organizations that participate. But let's start with the scouts. Who qualifies? How do you qualify?
It's really, really easy. I believe in I come from PR, right? So I focus on relationships, and relationships, there is a social contract. It's just a reality of all relationships. And if that social contract is not fulfilled from either party, the relationship deteriorates. We have no barrier of entry other than the willingness to share information about a particular innovation challenge or about all innovation challenges. I also know from community building that you really shouldn't ask the people that you ask for help, specifically for help every single time. The idea of qualifying yourself as a source of information or a source of opportunity and allowing them to participate when they want is a structure of inbound marketing. And so what we will do for each campaign and for each client is we work with the client to determine who are the contacts, audience selection and segmentation. This is kind of an art, not a science. You have to look at everyone in that you're considering reaching out to. You can access databases, but relying on a database for accuracy right off the bat is like relying on ChatGPT. Like you're going to be disappointed. There has to be an experienced human in the loop, or you're not going to get the accuracy that you're looking for. You're going to get a lot of what I call fraud. And so we tend to select people at the beginning of the campaign, but our campaigns are so wide. So for each audience, you have to select a channel, right? So channels of how you're reaching out and the methods that you're reaching out, they need different copy, tone, and design for each channel. And you need to pick a channel where that audience spends time. So you can't write a blog like a tweet, and you can't write a mass email like a follow-up email. And so because we use such a wide channel network when we do our marketing campaigns, we have two outcomes. The first is we found you and we think you're interested in this challenge. We're really, really good at research, and we do that outbound. But then we also do social media ads and newsletters, and we have this really cool toolkit where every single person that we share with also shares to their network. So we get a lot of inbound, like, hey, I saw this thing. Can I help share, or can I get materials? And then we will have a quick conversation with that particular person via email, and then usually by Zoom. If they're a really good connector and they say, hey, I work at this university and I've got this pool of startups I work with on a regular basis, what we'll most likely do is have a quick Zoom with them, just make sure that we do a face-to-face and we understand one another. I tell them more about what I'm working on, who I'm working with, and why I'm doing it. They say the same to me. I get a really good profile of the type of startups that they represent or that they help develop and foster. Technological category, geography, stage. I keep all those notes in our CRM, and we classify all of the lists in our database to make sure that we're segmenting based on technology, geography, stage, and things like that. Now, if I'm wrong, people will leave the database. People will say, hey, this isn't for me. If our conversation is good and I understand them and they understand me, they will stay around for years and still go to innovationchallenge.com and check to see what new challenges are going. Some people email me regularly, hey, Ian, didn't see an email from you last month. Would love to know what's going on in challenges in the next 4 months. So it's really like tending to a garden. You can plant seeds. They don't always grow into flowers, but once they do, you really do have to take care of them well. And then you both can enjoy the fruits of that for a long time.
The other thing I'd like to add too is that it's really interesting because as I was mentioning, you're always trying to find high quality. I mean, a lot of our clients that may not be using our methods, but they say, hey, we got a lot of submissions because they posted social media ads and things like that. And those things are great for brand awareness, but those aren't a way to rely on it. So we actually started about 8 years ago where we tracked every single interaction from the time that they hit a page, how did they enter all the way through registration, submission, all through every single stage. And at the end, we would always have this sort of kind of bet, like, hey, where did they come from? We haven't found any winner really in the last 10 years that has come from like a social media ad, which is pretty amazing. It's always come from these tech scouts, these people that have a passion for innovation, just like we do, which is really fascinating.
A great point. You make a great point, because really to do this properly, you can't do it shooting from the hip by just posting things on social media. You really need to have a structured process and a platform and a methodology for doing this, which you guys have really perfected over the last decade of like you said, tracking, every step in the process and knowing exactly the mechanics of how the challenge works and when to do each part and how to manage it to be most effective and most impactful, and ultimately produce the outcomes and results that your client is searching for, as well as keep that community of tech scouts really engaged in the process and coming back. So I think, having the methodology and the process that you have makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And Ian, just if you want to give another example, it's kind of a fun example, how targeted this is the India Autonomous Challenge and how targeted that was. Maybe you could give a little background on that.
Yeah, I think when we think of this, yeah, that's a good point. We always think of it being like this expansive global, but the Indy Autonomous Challenge was a really interesting one, which were actually, it kind of brought me back to my X Prize days, where it's just hyper focused innovation technology. But they needed an autonomous race car going at high speeds around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they needed it in 2 years. That was when their race was. That's a highly specialized ask. And so we started off by identifying, really going in a different way that we typically would, where we're not looking at a broad sharing, or we're not looking at establishing a network of connectors. That's one of those things where there's probably 90, 95 different labs across the world that have the technology, the money, and the talent to build an autonomous race car. The challenge is there's almost 450 like engineering and autonomous robotics labs across the world. So how do you pick out the 90 that are going to be the right ones and reach out efficiently, knowing that this particular audience isn't going to be super receptive? When you have, $17 million a year coming into your research laboratory and a full sponsorship from ANSYS, what is the incentive to go out and win a $1 million challenge, right? It's not a financial incentive anymore. You have to determine non-monetary value. You have to understand how to create enough of a buzz and enough of a competition where people say, well, everybody that's worth anything is going to enter this, so I've got to enter this too. And that's exactly what we did at X Prize, which was pick an industry where there's 8 or 9 really strong players, and then pit them against one another with a pot of cash, and hope that even though that pot of cash is totally inconsequential, which is what $10 million was to a private spaceship program. I think $228 million was spent building that spaceship, or something like, no, I'm sorry, $26 million was spent building that spaceship. It won 10 million, but they licensed it the next day for 225 million to Richard Branson. And so, I think that you have to really think about what audiences are you looking for. Sometimes it's not, let's reach out to a bunch of people. Sometimes it's, let's find the 90 people that are right. And both take, surprisingly, about 60 days. I would say 60 to 90 days is the max you need to spend to find, be it 90 incredible labs or 1,000 high quality technology startups.
And it sounds like a lot of the participants are actually startups that are looking for a way to really get brand awareness, brand recognition, and maybe drive towards some sort of exit, like you were talking about for in the spaceship case. Is that correct?
I think the sweet spot for people to enter innovation challenges and to run innovation challenges, I believe, is post proof of concept pre-funding. So you have a group of people who have created a piece of technology. It has worked once, or maybe it's worked in the lab. We all know the problems with reproducibility on the publishing side and on the health sciences side. It's rampant, right? But when a prototype, picture's worth 1,000 words and a prototype's worth 1,000 pictures. And so if we can get that prototype, that one working prototype, and there's data and feedback, that's a great place to be, because we understand the subject. We built something that works pretty well. We need a lot of help and money to take this thing that works really well once and turn it into something that can work for a lot of people in a lot of places, or maybe across multiple industries. And that's like the launching point for a company. And kind of right around there, if the team is right, if the idea is right, if the market's right, if the tech works, it's just enough information to put kind of a loose puzzle together and say, I can see where this is going. And so that, I believe, is the real sweet spot. Now, who fits that bill? It's usually, for the older group, it's people who are at corporations or high performing companies and have left, and they've got a little bit of cash and time, and they've got a really good idea, right? That's a good spot. Grad students, like the best spot. Grad students at research universities are the engine that moves the economy across the world. Look at where every patent comes from. Look at every single lab. The inputs come from the grad students. And so you really want to be close to physical science, life science, and digital media grad students at major research universities across the world. And then you've got the hard ones, this is where everybody starts, which is why most people fail, which is, let's go talk to startups. Startups are herding cats. We actually do zero outreach to startups. We never have done it. We never will do it. There's no point to do it. If you're a startup and you're looking for cash, you look hard, which means you're finding us. By going out to them, it's like you can see the databases that do that a lot. It's froth central, and our clients, frankly, they get frustrated because they get a bunch of people pitching a bunch of stuff they don't need, and that's not helpful.
Mhm. Now, you also mentioned a lot of the new ideas or technologies and concepts. They come from around the world. I've actually seen interesting in a lot of these challenges, like the winning idea comes from some like really obscure pocket in the Philippines or somewhere, like some engineer that was sitting there and just had a brilliant insight that no one else seemed to have. I mean, do you see that, like these real solutions coming from pockets all over the place?
Yeah, I think there's Anil, did you want to further?
Yeah,
I'll
I mean,
answer. You can
yeah,
go.
go ahead, and I can chime in afterwards.
There's a lot of research. I think that we have a lot of biases built into our system. The current innovation ecosystem is built for winners, and it's built for people who are already connected to money. So why do we see the best things coming from outside that? Because it's not part of the the friend network, the friends and family network, which is where everybody gets money and everybody gets. And so you go to Stanford, you go to MIT, you go to this school and that school in the US, and that's shooting fish in a barrel. That's easy. Everybody can do that. Like we used to joke at USC that the strategy for Stanford for tech transfer was picking up the phone. Like that was their marketing strategy. But research absolutely shows, like we know even in US companies, like immigrants make extremely high performing CEOs and exceptional entrepreneurs. And there's research that shows that boards, C-suites and leadership that have immigrants to the United States involved in their teams perform better than those that don't. So why? Because we are a global society of people on the innovation side. Like we're not a bunch of companies, right? We're not a bunch of countries. And so people come from everywhere and they want to solve problems. The people who are best at solving problems typically are going to be surrounded by more problems than others. If you are a kid growing up in the United States or in Western Europe, you have significantly less problems than if you are a kid growing up in other areas that are emerging. So who's going to be a better problem solver? Pretty logical there.
Anil, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. We have, when we're running these challenges, like we have a platform, so we can just log in and I'm watching videos and just seeing these innovations. I mean, there are people on like chicken farms in Africa that have found some insight because they saw their relative struggle with this, and that then they had the education to like come up with this new idea that could save all their crops. I mean, it's really fascinating to see how, especially the rest of the world in these lesser developed economies where there's just so many problems, especially in Africa, like 30% of our some of these companies are coming from Africa, different parts of Africa. But what I'm always fascinated with, and what from the very first innovation challenge that I founded, the judges would always ask, yeah, how did you come up with that? And people are like, they think they needed to pitch their idea from a standpoint of what's the total addressable market and like the MBA speak. But really it's about these personal stories, these really finding that true insight that got them so angry, right? About what they needed to do something about it. And I think that's what's most interesting to me is, having my own set of issues with my ear and things like that drove me to do this. But I think there are people all over the world that are in these different situations that really have that passion to do something about it. And so I'm always fascinated. I think Ian and I, and we have another guy that does some of the pitch coaching. We always ask that question because they just kind of launch in to their pitch and they completely forget what that unmet need and that insight is. And then once you get to that story, it's like, wow, that makes sense, or wow, that really opens up the sky to like a lot of different possibilities. It becomes maybe a platform. So I think it's this sort of collaborative exchange of that information to really find those true insights. And then from there, there's a lot of possibilities that can happen.
And both of those are great points. I mean, to me, this is powerful because, most of the people who come to these challenges, most of the organizations who come to these challenges with problems to solve or opportunities to tap into, they come to it with a certain set of contextual framework, certain set of rose-colored glasses, of a way of seeing the world. And that's the beauty of cognitive diversity and tapping into cultural diversity and people who have different experiences and completely different ways of seeing the world and different perspectives. It opens up so many new ideas, and because they're looking at the world through a completely different set of glasses with completely different contextual framework, and they can see things that we're just blind to it. We have cognitive biases and other blind spots, and it just breaks through some of those barriers. And some of these, from places in different African countries and all, they have completely different point of view and framework. So yeah, they come up with some really incredible solutions that, developed economies might not ever think about. So this is incredible. It really is.
And they're doing it on, with nothing too.
Yeah.
Here we are trying to go and, get $10,000 or $100,000, $1 million. I mean, they're doing it with a couple $1,000s and putting all their heads together to figure it out. So.
And we had a comment here from Barbara in our audience. She made this same point. Lots of innovators from poor or lower middle class backgrounds, they had to figure out things on their own. So they developed a way of thinking out of a need to do so, exactly like you said. She also commented that a lot of the individuals are, like Malcolm Gladwell talked about in the book, The Tipping Point. You have connectors, who are people who spread ideas, and then mavens who help drive the ideas forward. Some of these different people are playing these different roles. She also asked the question, do your challenges tend to focus more on product innovations or process innovations, or is it an equal mix of everything, or what?
I would say it's probably client specific. So universities and companies are usually looking for products or companies. I would say nonprofits and governments are usually looking for processes. For outreach, kind of based on what Anil was just talking about, it doesn't really matter. We're looking for people. We're looking for people who solve problems. A fun example is the thing that we're talking on right now. Zoom was created by an employee who used to work at Cisco on the WebEx team. Sometimes the idea that you have, it's not the right time, right? Or it's not going to work out, but you're still a pretty bright person. And you clearly have the skills and the understanding and the logic structures to be able to craft new ideas, put business plans around them, maybe put a team of people together to help try to solve them and think about how to affect that market. Boy, those skills are lifelong. And I think, and when we think about investing in innovation, we should be thinking about investing in the people who drive it, and understand that their first idea, their second idea, their third idea, maybe it's not going to work. I know my first 3 or 4 weren't too spectacular. But as you get better at it, the people who have invested in you and are still close to you, when you do have that great idea or that thing does fit right, boy, it takes off quickly. So you want to think about how do you approach that, and those people can improve processes or improve products. That type of skill set crosses over. So a great example of this is the Department of Health and Human Services. The Administration for Community Living wanted to develop a national no wrong door system. No wrong door means that if you get food stamps or you get welfare from one particular agency, that all the other agencies know that you now exist and will actively reach out to you to provide you with additional services. Why? Because if person's getting one service, they probably need multiple social services. And if we can provide them with more than one social service, we actually create a much better economic benefit and societal benefit, because we're giving them the proper level of services they need to move forward and to be an active member of society. So, well, how do you do that? Well, you're going to need people who understand how to implement things at the government level and at the national level, which is an incredible policy and process innovation, but you're also going to need the right technology. And so they kind of looked at it from both ends, which is, okay, let's go out and let's find everybody who's developing little pieces of technology that could be part of this. And then let's also find the people who are doing this at the local level and at the state level, and they're doing it really well, already no wrong door policies or no wrong door procedures. And then let's have a challenge, and then let's have all these people who are doing this at the local level, along with big tech, come in and judge them. And then we'll have all these people tell them the little parts of their technology that work really well. Then we're going to ask the judges, which of these would work best together? Which of these technologies? Let's choose 5 of them, 5 or 6 of them. Let's bring them in and say, can we build this new thing together? So that's kind of how product and process can work together across multiple clients.
Okay. So in the
Great
last few
question.
minutes, yeah, in the last few minutes, we have a couple other points I want to touch on. Number one is, in terms of the organizations that work with you to launch a challenge, well, first of all, it sounds like you work in both private sector and public sector organizations. Is there a certain size or structure or markets, anything that, defines who that organization is? Does it need to be a certain size, or how would you characterize these that make really good client organizations?
That's a good question. I think, honestly, it doesn't, I mean, obviously, if you don't have, if you have very limited resources, and not some of these incentives to give away, especially like Ian was saying with the monetary prize, then it may not be a good fit. So, I mean, I think you have to have some pot of money. There are other organizations that I'll qualify that by saying they don't give away any money, but they give away that opportunity. For example, a partnership or a way to partner with that company to pilot the technology. There's a lot of prestige that goes along with it. So I think it's a very good question, but you definitely need that commitment, and to be able to put something out there that is of value to those companies and to these scouts so that they see the value to it. And
So
then
otherwise,
just be,
every industry, every market, private sector, public sector, as long as they have the resources to invest in the prize process, then they are able to sponsor a challenge, right?
yeah, we think we're very industry agnostic. I mean, we've
Yeah.
worked across so many different industries and things like that. So we don't really look at it like one sector is good for the other. It's
Right.
really it's really more about the strategies to go and implement, to go find the right people.
Now, you also
And
alluded to.
Ian has a
Oh, go ahead,
quick.
Ian. I think you're muted, but there you go.
Yeah, I am muted, which is sorry about that. I would say there's 2 things that kind of I see prevalently. So the first is you've got some excess cash and you need to invest in your innovation ecosystem. I mean, there are tons of companies that identify that, they set that side of cash aside and they say, we need to do this. This is an important spend. That's a lot of forethought. I think there's other people who say, I want to invest in infrastructure. I want to invest in people and things and infrastructure for my business or my organization. And then they do that. And then those resources are not fully allocated. Maybe it's access to a specialized piece of equipment or access to incubator space or a mentor network that you've already invested in, but you're not getting all the bang for the buck that you want out of it. So you need to find people who can take advantage of that, but you want to find the right people to give your lab space time to, or to give that specialized equipment time to. And in that case, these work extremely well. The third option is I've got an investment fund on the back end, and I want to create a really nice pipeline for that investment fund because I know I want to deploy resources or cash to, say, 8 to 10 entities over the next 2 to 3 years. But I want to do it carefully. I want to vet them really well. And I'm going to do that using this system because I know it's going to get me, 20 or 30 to choose from versus 200 to 300.
Very good, thank you. And one other question I want to ask, related to something you mentioned earlier, Anil, was partnering. Do the organizations who sponsor the challenges, once the challenge is finished, do they ever actually hire the people who have the ideas or otherwise partner directly with them? I could see with startups, sometimes you have acquire hire where you buy them just to get them people. Does that happen? What can you say about that?
Yeah, actually, I was just reading a story about that from one of our Cisco winners, that they kind of pivoted several times, then ended up becoming acqui-hired. Even going back to the first innovation challenge that I did with the MBA students, some of those people went on to work for AT&T for like 10 years in their innovation departments, because they were just so good at, again, it was the people, they understood the process. We had some people from GE that got hired as well, from that quote from Steve, that worked there again and for like 10, 15 years are still there, after so many years. So it is a really great pool for talent. You can meet some incredible people and have, and that share that passion for innovation, and will stick through thick and thin to help make that happen. So there's just so many really cool stories of people like that go and work for it. And then there are these other incredible stories where, the non-winners, even though you don't win that grand prize, they're just, on our data, we're looking at the non-winners, and these non-winners are either raising money. One guy ended up going public, and he didn't win any money, and it's like people missed out on that opportunity to grab him. So I think their talent is a huge piece of this puzzle as well. And in the innovation world, you definitely need those types of people to drive things forward.
So yeah, also a mechanism for talent scouting as well. One last question we'll ask, and then I had a last point to make. But Walid Nima in our audience has the question: Does the membership as an organization give you access to the scouts and the ability to see their profiles and learn about them? And what other membership benefits are there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we share this information. So again, depending on what you're looking for, when we run a campaign like this, we want to share that information about these scouts to other people, so that they can leverage maybe through other promotions or other events to build that community, to tend to that community. So that's definitely a part of the service.
Okay. And like,
I'll add to that just a little bit. So the number that we put out there, that 10,000, that's actually across every challenge. So those are people who want to know about all innovation challenges. We have campaigns where that influencer database can be, including public choice voting. So people that voted on the past can be 80, 90,000 contacts.
wow.
And we don't like to throw those numbers out because it overwhelms people, like, oh my God, how am I going to find 90,000 people? But if you do this for 5 years, you will have 60 to 90,000 people following what you're doing. That's what we've seen. But your core network, you probably, after a couple of years, I want to say the Cisco one is around 14 to 15,000. But we see ones that have been 2 or 3 years that are much smaller than that and given much less money. You're still looking at around 1,500 to 2,000 organizations that are helping you share a program. Now, it doesn't just have to be the innovation challenge. All of your programs can use these contacts because we don't have anything proprietary here. Everything that we work on is shared with our clients, is shared with our members. So you've got a newsletter, you've got another program you're doing, like you can take those contact lists, they've been vetted, these people like you, and you can use them.
Very good. So there's a lot of benefits, not only getting solutions to your challenge and getting access to the scouts and getting access to talent, but, just being a part of this overall community is very powerful. So to wrap it up, a couple things real quick. First of all, I wanted to mention that Global Innovation Institute and Skilled do have a partnership to really promote this. And if you scan the code that Anil has shown you here in the presentation, that will take you to the Gianna page that talks about this, and you can submit contact information there. And we'll work with Skilled to reach out to you and provide more information about that. The other thing, Anil, is you have this new Innovation Challenge service that's a turnkey service. So as a last comment, can you kind of tell us what that packaged service looks like, and then we'll wrap it up from there?
Sure. I think it really starts with having a conversation, and everybody's unique and sort of what they're looking for. So, I'm sure you're all familiar with creating challenge statements. That's something that we would have a conversation on. And then it's really sort of mapping out the audiences that we're going to go out to. But it's selecting, a couple of different themes. We do have different themes, just general themes like health, sustainability, productivity. Within that could be multiple different things. So I think it starts off with that topic and what area you want to enter. And then from there, crafting that, having that conversation with the challenge statement. And then really it's just launching a campaign, which, can be done very quickly within 30 to 60 days. And just seeing all these innovations.
And this would be like an ongoing thing. So you have an annual membership that they can pay, and then just have this as an ongoing thing and have different campaigns each year. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Or multiple campaigns if there's, adjacent industries or topic areas as well.
Well, very good. So that really brings us to the conclusion of our webinar today. I just want to thank our guest for being with us, and I want to thank everyone in the audience for being with us, those who are with us live and those who are watching the recording. We very much appreciate your participation. If you'd like to learn more about Skilled and Innovation Challenge, you can scan this code here, or you can reach out directly to Anil and Ian, and they'd be happy to work with you. You can find them on LinkedIn and so forth. And we'll be following up with everyone too with more information as well. So with that, I want to thank you for joining our webinar today and wish everyone a very pleasant, wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Anthony.